Hello guys, welcome to the sports management series by Explore Sports Management, and today we have a very special guest with us for the very first episode of the interview series, Mr. Sriram Soumyajula sir. He forms a critical component and a key aspect for his team's success on the field. Based on his calculated analysis of the game, his team devises strategies for their opponent and to strengthen themselves. Mr. Sriram is an esteemed sports performance analyst with an experience of more than a decade in this industry. He has worked in the field being involved in sports like cricket, football, badminton and kabaddi at the international level. He is associated with international sporting bodies such as Afghanistan cricket team, Sri Lanka cricket team, Zimbabwe cricket team and many more. He is also part of the successful Indian Premier League franchisee Delhi Capitals, who have qualified for the IPL playoffs consecutively in 2019 and 20 and also reached the finals of Dream 11 IPL 2020. Mr. Soumyajula played a key role in the club's successful campaign as the performance analyst of the team. So we would like to welcome Sriram Soumyajula sir. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you for this interview.
Thank you, Shaurya.
So first of all, many congratulations on the successful IPL campaign that you had with Delhi Capitals. It was an amazing journey to watch for all of us.
Thank you again.
All right. So, sir, this interview will be about how sports performance analysts are, what exactly their job role is, and how one can strive to have a career in that. So, just to start off, can you just briefly explain what a performance analyst is, their role, and their importance in a team setup?
See, as a performance analyst, what's important, initially the primary objective, obviously, for me is that you'll have to have great passion towards it. See, if you don't have passion towards the job or the role that you are going to have for your entire career, I think that's going to be just a monotonous thing, and you may or may not like, and you just want to get up and then from the bed you go shower and then you go to your office, sit from on a desktop from 9 to 5 in the evening and then come back. It gets so monotonous. So most important thing for you here as a sports performance analyst or a performance analyst as such is passion. The passion is what drives you, and that's exactly what has happened to me. The passion which I had in the game, the sport, cricket especially. Obviously, I played for my club teams in Tamil Nadu. I thought I won't make it big anywhere just playing. There was a parallel career that I chose. I spent a lot of time analyzing what I need to do. Got advice from a lot of people. Then I took this up as a challenge. At a very young age, I quit cricket and then I started this. Like you said, it's almost about a little over a decade now. I'm doing this and I'm so happy what I'm doing. Because every day I wake up, I don't have to think. I don't have to worry that I'm going to an office or I'm going and sitting in front of a computer and working something. But it's so exciting that whenever I open, I actually don't want to close my computers in the day at all, because I know there's so many things that's happening. Yesterday there's so much happening in cricket. One in South Africa, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Sri Lanka, and in Bangladesh. So much cricket happening in a day. So you would actually want to gather so much information from so many other cricketing world. So you don't feel like closing your computer. Of course, you get tired as well, mentally, physically. But this is what this performance analysis teaches you, because you're not analyzing a particular individual's performance here. You're also looking at so many things that's happening around the globe, and it never it never bores you. So you're always you're always looking forward to something or the other. Exciting.
Okay. So we'll just rewind a few years, like when you were starting out your journey. So what drove you into specifically performance analysis? Like, you were a cricket player, as you said, so you could have done coaching or you could have gone for anything else in cricket only. But what drove you towards performance analysis, and how did you embark your journey in it?
You see, I at a very young age, like I said, I thought of moving on from my playing career as such to what I'm doing now. At that age, if I said to somebody that I wanted to be a coach, nobody would have taken me seriously. And neither did I have that proficiency to become a coach at that age, because I was very, very young, probably 19, 20. So I did pursue my cricketing career as well. I did my all that I could do, but just not made for it. I mean, I'm happy to, I'm proud to say that I'm doing what I'm doing today. But then, and also I have something in my heart, somewhere in the corner of my heart says that I should have given it a try. There could have been a chance. There is no regret though, but that's when I realized if I'm not able to have something in one in a career which I really went behind, I know that I can offer something more parallelly in the same in the same industry. That's cricket again, the sports industry as such. If you look at it that way, at a very young age, I was interested and very attracted to this computers and what I can learn of computers. That's a computer age again, isn't it? So computers were new, the technology was new. What I can learn was beyond what actually is available, and which interested me more. So I took up some IT courses, the short-term courses, 6 months, 8 months, and then I did my 2 years of NIIT in the National Institute of Information Technology. Went through that. I studied SQL. I studied programming languages. I got more interested there. So then I said to myself one day, of course I was discussing with a few people as well. I was telling them, why can't I club both my academics and the sport and see what I can do there. I knew a company then was doing it, and then I wanted to ask them opportunities. I never got an opportunity or an opening there with them. So I wrote to them a few times. I said, why do I have to look for somebody else to give me an opportunity? Why can't I create my own opportunities? Then that's when I started doing it on my own, and then I built the systems around me. So I said, if I need to survive somewhere, I need to establish myself, and I need to establish in such a way that nobody can come and shake me. So it took me about 3-4 years to to build that, but I gave my commitment to it. I know a lot of people said what you're doing is just a touch and go, or it may or may not happen. Why you want to take a chance at this young age? You have a lot of age behind you, and then you could pursue your cricket. A lot of dilemmas. A lot of people came and said so many things. I gave it to myself. I said, I can achieve. I know what I'm talking about, and I will do this. And 4 years of time I gave it, and then it progressed from there.
It's a wonderful story. Yeah. Thank you. So now, basically, how does the work that you do, what is an average day look like during on season and off season of the cricketing playing players? So how does an average day for you goes by?
Like I said to you just now, like yesterday we had 4 or 5 cricketing actions across the globe. So you are constantly on the run. Obviously, sitting in one place, you will be connected to all these scores and videos. Watch them, what's happening around, build your stories around them, and then keep your archive so intact for discussions during the IPL drafts, IPL auctions, and other things. So, and obviously, I'm also busy in doing something new right now. I'm conducting some one-on-one programs with individuals who are interested and keen in taking up analysis as a career.
So during on season, like suppose while working with Delhi Capitals, how was your day during the matches when matches were going on the match day, and on the off when the matches were not going on during the off days? How was that like?
It's brilliant. Also, it's challenging because if you look at the way the support team is for us, they take at least 80% of your work. See, they try to keep it so simple that relieves your pressure off you. So especially someone like Ricky Ponting, who's a head coach, it's massive, and he's a massive name in the cricketing industry, isn't it? So for someone like him to be sitting with us and then giving us what he understands about the game, what he thinks about the game, and shares his thoughts around how the team should be, etc., etc. I think it's brilliant. I personally have learned a lot. Every single meeting, every single session that we all sat together and discussed quite a bit, and the routine during the tournament itself, is brilliant because you have set routines. You have meetings after every meeting, you go on with individual sessions with players. In the meeting, what we discuss, come back and then do their individual plannings as well again. And then the coaches will have their meetings again, discussing and putting the team together. And then we finish that, go on to the game, come back and sit on the drawing board. If you lose, what happens? If you win, what happens? Where we can improve. So I mean, it's challenging. It's not definitely going to be easy, but again, it's a challenging job, and you need to coordinate with so many coaches. It was very good though for us this year, but yeah, except the last bit.
Yeah, so you mentioned the supporting staff, and so how important is it to gel with the support staff or the coaching staff and with the players as well to do well at your work? I mean, how important to go coordinate well and to work well along with the people that you in your team management?
You see, it's not just with the support team. You have a 10-15 member support staff. And you have to gel with everybody. It's not just one person that adds value there. It's not just the head coach. It's so many people. The trainers are there, the physios, the team doctors, your assistant coaches, your team manager. You're so many people around you there, right? And you will have to have good rapport with all of these people at some stage, because it's a long tournament. When you win games, your moods are different. When you lose games, you start looking at things differently. Sometimes you sulk. So for all of this, keeping positive atmosphere, positive environment, even if if somebody is sulking, you just go and give a pat on their back. Or if you sulk, somebody comes and tells you, don't worry, we'll play well. So it's important that you always have good relationship with everybody around you in your team. But it's not just with the players, it's more importantly within the support team.
Okay. So talking about a performance analyst or a sports analyst in general, the basic assumption that comes in mind of anyone would be that they are a techie junk, as they say, and they sit in front of their laptops and in the front of their Excel and with their data. They do that all day, like 24/7. So how true is that assumption to take?
It is true to an extent, but that is why to ease that pressure off you, there are these companies who provide backend support. They also have a team. Like I sit personally with a team and I work, but behind me there are a set of people who sit and work as well. So they keep driving you with information. They keep sending you a lot of new stuff. You obviously don't take all of that and then go to your coaches with your research, but that all is a research material for me. Now, if I said to you that, I watched all the matches yesterday that happened across the globe, that's a lie, right? Which is where if you actually see what happens with these guys, the company whom we engage with, they give you the information. They give you the raw information, but what you want. If I say that I want to see what happened yesterday in the game, in a T20 game, how David Malan played, obviously I would have missed the action. I would have probably been doing something else, or it was just late night for me. I couldn't have seen the match. But if I ask them, they will send me the stuff and I can watch it. So it's about how he has played that moment and how he got out, or how he tackled a particular type of bowler or the entire team, the situation that he played, what batting position, etc., etc. So that is what is the work that goes behind. It is seldom spoken outside about the back-end team who supports the front-end analyst there, who's sitting there. But yeah, that's why I say it's a thankless job from their point of view as well, because there are so many people sitting from the back end and keep sending you information. I mean, as long as you see it as a work, it's fine. But if you see it more than a work, it's a passion. You don't really want to go and thank every minute that hey, thank you so much. But the team that works behind you is 24/7.
Yeah.
Right, and then they keep feeding you information. You might be sleeping there in wherever you're traveling with the team, but these guys, they just put in so much of hard work. They give you what you want, and then you compile them together. You see whether the research is good. Then you take it to the coach and the players.
So a major part of the work is like you have the data available. I mean, you collect the data, and then what you derive out of the data, that's what makes you good at what you do. Am I right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, sir, you have been in this for more than a decade, and you are doing this since like 2007 or 8, if I'm not wrong. So, how have you seen it change? Like with changing technology and more data there is to be collected, more things that can be done to analyze. So, how have you seen this change, and what difference do you see from 2007 to 2020 per se?
You see, in 2006, when I actually studied, uh, I saw it completely different. They used to have some sophisticated systems. It is all simplified and further simplified now. 10 years back, what was different, now what is different, and what could be different from now, from the next 2-3 years, and potentially, what you take out of the analysis or what you derive out of the analysis is important. It's not so much about the systems. Yes, the systems keep evolving. iPhone 3 was different, iPhone 12 is different now. So, at the end of the day, you just pick up the phone call, same dial pad, and you just dial the number and you talk. So it's simple as that. Cricket is played the same way, badminton, football, all of this. The game has not changed, but it has evolved. There was no, T10, but there is T10 in the last 2-3 years. If you have seen, the evolution of the sport itself is so much right now. And till in 2011, if you remember, 2011, 12, 13, and all, there used to be super sub. It was not there later, and then it has again evolved in T20 cricket in Australia, Big Bash right now. So the evolution of the sport is what we talk about, and then it has actually revolutionized the cricketing or the sports industry itself today. It is that way, it is constant. The change is constant. Change is permanent. So you have to accept the fact that there is always evolution of not just in the sport, in the technology as well. So you have to get adapted to it. You have to accept the change and then move on with it.
Okay.
But if I have to, in a nutshell, put things together for you, the way the analysts were looked at earlier and the way they are looked at it in the modern day, at least in the last 2-3 years, is so different. Earlier, it is just about recording the videos and then showing them, putting that in a slow motion and frame by frame analysis and giving them stuff on some notes. But today it's more data centric, more tactical, go into details of what the player is, what the opposition is. If I have to really pick a player in an auction or a draft, I have to really know the entire biodata of that player and how I can bisect them, how that will be useful for us in different scenarios, all of that. So there's a lot of work that goes behind right now. The understanding of the term or the terminology of an analyst is again more accepted today and more prominent, I would say.
Okay. So, like you mentioned, so like you have to analyze the opponent team's players as well. So, how much of your time goes analyzing, your own team players, and how much of time goes for the opponent team players?
As much as what I do for an opposition, you have to do for yourself as well, because you are now planning for an opposition. But what if you are not able to improvise on your execution plans? Knowing opposition is one thing, but you also have to know your own strengths and weakness as well. If you do not know how to execute a Yorker particularly, no point talking about a plan A being a Yorker to a particular batsman. So it's as good as but just walking into a game without knowing anything at all. So you must plan your weakness, your strength, according to your weakness and your strength, and then look at opposition plans. So first thing that we did even this year was to understand what our own strengths are, where we can potentially improve, and where we can make small changes, adjustments. Obviously, I don't go and talk to the players directly, although we can. We have to route it through the coaches, because the coaches are there for that reason, right? If I did a coach's job, then I'm not justifying my role as well, right? Lot of them we have heard of people say that this guy comes and tells me I play like this, I should play like this. But why the coaches are there? Who better than a Ricky Ponting, who better than an Andrew McDonald or a Trevor Bayliss can go and talk about that in the team meetings or with the players individually? Why would I? I can be a certified coach, but that doesn't give me a license to go and approach the player unless they come to you and talk to you about it.
Okay. So the data tracking that we talk about, does it happen only during the matches, or during the maybe say practice matches that go on, or the training sessions, in the net practice sessions, or how is it like?
Yeah. So every single session is tracked, and sometimes your coaches don't want the practice sessions to be recorded. It's fine, but some individuals want it. It depends on what the need is that particular moment. And the practice matches, yes, are tracked, and we also have some plans, game plans for every practice session or the practice match that we play, or a simulate. We simulate a few things, and then we understand, okay, this is what we achieve in this period, and how we overcome our difficulties, and progress from there. So
Okay.
everything is monitored, including how much the workload of a bowler, how many balls he has bowled in the practice game, how many balls he bowled in a practice session, and how much of intensity he has given. So all of that are tracked.
Okay, sir. So going into a big tournament like IPL or even for an international series, how does the preparation look like from an analyst point of view? Like how long before it all starts? Like I'm sure even during the lockdown and before this IPL, it must be tough. Like how to go on about it. So can you share some light?
Yeah, see, first of all, there were a lot of uncertainties of IPL happening in October or not. But yes, the minute we sensed it, we smelt it that it's going to happen. I sort of rejuggled my entire plans and started working towards what we want to achieve for the season ahead. So it started way back in June, July, when I really at least I had a element of positive signs there that IPL might happen. So I started working since June, July for that. But generally, in a normal scenario, if we are starting a tournament in say mid 15 days time from now, my preparations would have been completed by then. Already 2 weeks ahead of the tournament. So then I sit with the individuals or the coaches and then understand where they can add value, they can contribute. So it's all about those 1%. I don't have to go and tell Rashid Khan where he has to bowl. I don't have to go and tell a particular batsman that where he has to play. They all know it, but they seek information. It's about them coming and asking us what we want, what they want. Sorry.
Can you give us a little insight, like which of the players are very high keen on getting the analysis, and which of the players are like they rely on their own thing to do it? And can you name a few players?
Everybody are different. It is very it is unfair to name people, but I can tell you a few instances. The work ethics of different people are so revealing that someone like a Shikhar Dhawan does his process. Whether he has had a good game, he has not had a good game, he will follow his process. Every single time, we have played 4 times Mumbai Indians this year. All the 4 times he has come and sat before the game, watched every single person of how he bowls. He asks us questions of whether he swings it away, he brings it in, what does he do. So he is, I think Shikhar Dhawan to me has I can easily say he would have played about 1,000 balls of Jasprit Bumrah in his career so far, in his practice sessions and his matches altogether. But for him to be again coming and watching what Bumrah does before a game starts, that could be a customary thing also. But still, he puts in a lot of effort to do that homework as well. So he's like, before you go to an exam, you still open the book and then you study. So it's like brushing your mind again, brushing your thought. Okay, this is what I'm going to see. This is what I'm going to get. I probably can, just have a glance at it. So it's like that. So before you go into a game, it's like an exam. You go inside and then you go and perform. So it's not about the confidence. Someone like a Prithvi Shaw is so confident. He knows what he can do, and he is an X-factor player for us. He's a brilliant guy. He doesn't have to watch as many videos as what probably another person would watch. But what happens here is he knows what he's planning for a particular type of bowler, and then he comes and he does it in the team meeting or just after the team meeting. He comes and sits. Takes time. For Shikhar, it might be a 20-minute session. For a Prithvi, it might be a 1-hour session, not before the game, but a couple of days before the game itself. So, but like I said, everybody will do their homework at that level, and all of them have their own way of doing things.
Do you think that in domestic cricket also it is required to have such analytics performed? It will definitely help the players if they know more about their game and more data they have. So is it required, or it would be too heavy?
You mean domestic in the sense T20 franchise based, or?
No, the Ranji Trophy, or at that level, or even below.
Of course. See, I'm telling you, at even a club level, you need analytics. Because if you are, setting up for a big future ahead of you, right? You do not know where you are making the change, where the change is coming from. It can be those, like I said, the 1%ers. You might be very, very good at one thing, but you may not be very, very fluent in a short selection, or in your footwork, or in your point of delivery as a bowler or a follow through or whatever. So analytics and analysis, both are there from the beginning of your career. I mean, somebody who can monitor you from day one to where you want to achieve till your 10-year goal. Like I said, it is never ending. It will never end as well. Well, a guy who has just started his career also needs analysis, or someone like the god of cricket, sometimes what people call Sachin, and even he was looking at his analysis, when he was almost in the retirement ages, right? So you still need analysis at every single age, but what they don't want, they may not be looking at certain things which a beginner will look at. So the difference is there, but analysis is there for every single age. I mean, you can never say that only as a beginner I want analysis. Once I have progressed, I don't need. But once you have a failure, then you again are stuck to this. You again are stuck to the process that you want to follow. Where I have gone wrong, my head is probably going down, or I'm not able to score this, or I might have had a different set of preparations. There are so many things. Yeah.
I asked the question because we see that there could be a huge demand of performance analysis in future, and there are many people who would be looking to get into this career. So do you see that it's going to just increase from here on, and not just in cricket but in other sports as well?
100%, because if you look at the way this industry is booming right now, I should say this, and I'm very proud as an Indian as well. There are so many Indians and the Indian companies who are again working with many teams across the globe. Universally it is accepted, and a lot of them that I have known have done wonders in this field. I mean, they've been pioneers. They've inspired a few people. They've helped their careers blossom. My point is that there is a scope for every single passionate thinker of the game to become an analyst, and how is something that we need to work on. So just because you have passion, you can't become an analyst. You are going through the set protocol, set way of developing yourself, nurturing yourself. So there are certain things that you have to do to become an analyst. Yes, but there is no prerequisite as such that you should have done a BSc Maths or a Stat or something like that. You don't need to have specialized in a sports degree. So just passion is good, then obviously commitment has to go along with it, and then your perseverance has to be there. Then most importantly, the subject knowledge. If you do not have the subject knowledge, then I cannot go and teach you cricket.
Yeah.
So these are the primary requisites.
Okay, so these are the basic skills that you require to have excel in this work. Or what are the actual basic skills and the qualifications that you would require to?
Of course, of all this, primarily, if you have the interest, okay, you want to get into this field, but the prerequisite for this, as to become an analyst, obviously the subject knowledge is very important. Okay, you must know the sport, you must have played, or even if you have not played, you must be able to talk about it. I mean, nobody can say Ashraf Bughle has played the game, but nobody has seen it probably. But he can probably be one of the best commentators, one of the best analysts in the cricketing circle. So you could become one, but the subject knowledge is very important. You must be able to convince somebody. Look, whom you are convincing at the end of the day. You are convincing a coach, convincing a player. So both of them should have that trust on you. And you cannot simply, just because they did not take your comment, you cannot just simply get demotivated, right? You have to be able to say, yes, I know this will happen for you, but you cannot be pushy as well, because they know what they are doing at the end of the day, right? You will give them information, but understand this, when they don't accept your thought for that moment, don't get rejected, because they will come back to you. They will come back to you when they want. Maybe they have to churn it. It's a human mind at the end of the day, So they have to churn it. They have to apply it in the practice or in the game. If they see success, they come behind you for sure.
I'm sure you must get this question a lot. So how should one enter this field? How should they start their career if they want to become a sports analyst or a performance analyst? Where should they begin?
Like I always tell people, again, I told you, even in this chat also with you before, passion is the first and foremost thing. but just passion is not going to take you anywhere. Passion and commitment towards it, like I said, commitment, you might have ups and downs in your in the path of becoming an analyst, right? Don't give up if things don't go your way. Continue, pursue. As you keep pursuing it, the perseverance takes you to the next level. Then you build the trust with the coaches or the players that you work with. It's actually both. It's actually more with the coaches than the players in the first place, because the coaches are trusting you. They want to have you and the information that you pass on with them, and then if the information is good enough, they're going to take it to the players in the best possible way that they know, right? If they see success ratio there, they obviously will come. Sometimes you don't see success. That's when the system will, the nature will keep you there. They definitely, there might have been many instances where you give your best, but the nature protects you, right? So many times this happens. So after all this, once you have built the trust factor with your coaching staff and with your players, then that's it. You also have to upgrade your skills from what you were and what you are and where you want to be, all of that. So it's all about developing your soft skills, understanding the sport. Subject knowledge is very, very, very important of all this, right? Any sport. I'm not talking about just cricket. If you talk about a badminton now, when I was working with badminton players, it's important that I also know what movements are involved in it, what sort of rallies that they take and how they return the serves. So there are so many technical points, the terminologies that you have to use. You have to be in the shoes of a player, as a coach, understand them. But one thing is, as analyst, I always say that you be an analyst, remain as an analyst, don't become a coach. Don't start to coach the players, because that's the point which will start seeing your iteration at the end of the day. So take it positively. I mean, obviously, we all are here to learn. You all have to be there should be a starting curve for you. The starting curve is to have passion. From there you take it up.
Can you also share some light on what the 11th of December that you have an orientation program about the converting passion into profession? So can you just tell something about it?
Just for people who are inquisitive about become an analyst, how to train yourselves into analysis and develop your skills as an analyst. There's an orientation on the 11th of December. If you wish to join, you can. You can get into the registration links and then apply and then register yourself. It's a 30-minute orientation. There'll be a lot of FAQs followed by the sessions. So a lot of people joining me on the session already and registered. And post the session, we will also announce what are the courses, how we will drive this entire analytical workshops, and up to internship programs, etc., etc. So do join us, and we can take it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much, sir, for joining. It's been a pleasure to have you, and there was so much to learn from you, and I'm sure our viewers have also learned a lot.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Yeah, and look forward to many more such interviews. I mean, in future also.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video and learned a lot from Sriram sir. Make sure you like the video and share it with your friends to whom you think this will be helpful. And to join the orientation program with Sriram sir on 11th of December, you can register through the link in description. And we'll be coming up with more such interviews and content in future. So make sure you subscribe. And yeah, so see you soon. Bye.